Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be installing new rotors on the 2016 WRX, and that is by the R1 Concept. This is their ceramic series. It's going to actually help with combating the rust that happens to be on brake rotors, aftermarket rotors. So let's go ahead and get this started. They are 13 in the front and 12 in the rear, full set. And they have that ceramic coating, so you're going to see a silver kind of finish to it, and once it starts to wear, it actually will take off this protective coating to help the embedding, and then underneath is a different style of protective coating, so that way you know that the wearing process is complete. So let's go ahead and get this started. So a few things you're going to need is going to be a 19mm jack stands. All right, let's get this done. Alright, so now that I got the actual tire off, the next step is to actually take the actual brake caliper off that's held on behind the rotor itself. That's going to be two 17mm bolts. Okay, and that's going to be like right here, and then another one that's going to be right here. So now that we're going to take this rotor off, if you have a brake caliper holder hook, which like attaches to the springs here or the caliper, I would recommend doing that. If not, zip ties also work well. That's just going to hang like right there. Whatever we can do to keep that caliper from pulling fully down, because this caliper is heavy. Alright, so now that we got that off, the rotor itself, if it's stuck on, which you know, it looks like it is. So instead of actually putting Mars on your stock rotors, just in case you guys are watching this film for just how to replace your stock rotors, there's actually two screws here that you can use to push it off the actual axle. And that bolt actually is the same bolt that is held on your brake line, okay? And that bolt is a 12mm bolt. So this bolt did not work as expected. Kit from Pep Boys, they sell like multiple aftermarket factory bolts. The thread pitch for this was 1.25. It can be any kind of bolt head size, but this one actually fits the thread perfectly. So you guys can see what to expect when you are trying to get your rotor off. So just thread it nice and slow. It's gonna get to a point where it will feel like it's resisting. What that means is it's going to be hitting the rotor. So what we're listening for is we're listening for a pop. It happened on the other rotor. Sadly, I didn't capture it. But as you can see, if you look real close to this thread when I push it, you see how this is moving off the rotor. So that's what this is for. So your first time when you guys do it, you should hear a pop noise. And don't panic, it's not doing anything besides popping it off the hub. Alright, so let me back these out. There we go, see? Got in there nice and easy. Rubber mallet did not work like I've worked on other rotors. It just stood there and laughed at me. Again, that pitch is 1.25mm. Alright, now that we got this rotor off, we'll go ahead and swap it. Alright, so now that this is off, I am going to spray this down with brake cleaner first. Alright, so now that it's all cleaned up, there's no factory connection or bolt to. You just want to set it on there. Once this wheel is pushed on here, the brake pads and calipers put on there, it'll stay on there nice and fit. But I mean, look at the way this looks already, big difference. Let's go ahead and finish this install. So once we get this reassembled, we're going to take the old brake pads off. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and spray some brake cleaner, clean it all up. But I mean, look at that already. You know, this is very simple, easy, fun install, especially doing it on the WRX. I've done it on other cars, and let me just tell you, it is not fun. Subaru made this pretty simple. So now the actual rotor's back on with the caliper, we're gonna do the brake pads, and that is a 14mm bolt on the back of the actual caliper. And we're gonna use the actual caliper hook again. With this being freshly installed, it's gonna wiggle a lot for us, but the thing that I'm really concerned of is making sure that we clean up everything before putting this new ceramic brake pad back on. Now that the caliper is on and the rotor is mounted, the next thing you need to do is push these pistons back here. Okay, we have 2 of them, and you can use a tool like myself. This is from Harbor Freight. It's actually a really nice tool that has multiple pieces to use it on multiple cars. So for the Subaru 2016, this one is just a single slot tool, number 3 if you're using the Harbor Freight tool. Okay. When you're doing this, pushing this piston back, you are pushing fluid back up into your reservoir, so I would recommend undoing your reservoir cap and having some rags around it, just in case this pushes a little more fluid than it needs to. The reservoir can handle and tends to overflow. Okay, that's one down. All right, both those pistons are now perfectly aligned. That will allow us to seat the new brake pads, and then we also need to make sure that we grease up our points down here where the brake pad's going to move, and that's going to be down this little channel here and up here. Personally, like to grease right here behind the brake pad, because these pistons do move and there is vibration, and on these ends of the calipers. So basically any place that you're going to be moving the brake assembly, that's where you should be greasing your brake pads. Slide these bad boys in. Nice and snug on there. And that's all there's to it. Make sure you put your caliper bolt back down there, that 14mm bolt that we took out to raise the caliper. That's your front rotor install, and we'll go ahead and do the back. Go ahead and get the rear tire off. So the rear caliper is a little bit easier because it's not as massive. Okay, so 14 for the rear bolts that hold the caliper on. 14mm bolts out. We can slide that off. Same concept as before. This bolt itself is an 8mm head, which is like a 14mm socket, but I mean, you can use anything as long as it has the appropriate 1x2.5 millimeters. That's my fault. Yes, emergency brake is pulled up. Okay, now it should just come off. Ta-da! These were engaged. My bad. Alright, so well, good part is this is off now. Let's go ahead and clean up. Besides on the rotors, I don't want to spray any kind of brake cleaner in here because I'm not too sure if we can without causing any problems. Alright, so now that we got the actual inspection hole plug replaced from the factory onto the aftermarket, it doesn't matter which orientation these little holes go to. There's nothing that it mounts to. It's just there to help you remove it. As you seen before, try to slide this back on. Make sure it's nice and snug, and that's it. We're going to take the caliper itself and mount it back on with the 14mm bolts that are back there. Before we do that, let me take the brakes out. Okay, so just for reference, let me get you guys in there, see where these bolts are. There's a bolt that's right there, and then the other one is right there, just so you guys can see. Tighten those 14mm bolts back up. Alright, yes. we want to make sure we clean out these brake retainer clips. You want to see how that is super dirty. And then all done there. Okay, let's go ahead and get the brake pads installed. Now we're just going to slide this back over. That you need to push in. That way it slides down. That's it. 14mm bolts in the back for the caliper bracket are on nice and tight. And then that was 2 of those. Then you make sure that your 14mm caliper slider bolt is also secured. And that's it. Alright, so all done, finished. I hope you guys enjoyed that video as much as I enjoyed actually installing it. This is actually one of the easier installs that you actually enjoy and not get frustrated on, but I mean, it happens with modifying a car. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and give me some comments down below what you guys think, what you guys like, don't like, you know, all are welcome. Other than that, remember, dreams are never simple. Thanks for watching, guys.